get into a little bit more biology today. We've talked a little bit about atoms and molecules and how they bond, but we're going to look especially today at water and polarity and how they make a huge difference in how life forms. So we'll take a look at water and get a good understanding of that and describe the concept of polarity and how that impacts how chemicals and molecules bond with each other. So, looking at the objectives today, you're going to be able to express the importance of polarity. Something really important to understand is why our molecule is polar and why is it important. And then as a result, understand why water is polar and the unique properties it has. The fact that water is polar is what allows it to have some really cool and really unique chemical properties that we're going to discuss here in just a few minutes. Ready? Good. Let's roll. So water is by far the most important compound in life. You probably know it better as H2O. It has so many uses inside every single living organism. It's hard to describe it in just a few short minutes. But one thing that it can do is it can dissolve molecules. It's involved in transport, that is moving materials across different, between cell membranes or throughout the body. 70 to 90% of an organism is water. So most of our bodies is made up of water. So it's a really important molecule and has a lot to do with the day-to-day functions of any living organism. What makes water special is the fact that it's polar. And when we describe polarity, we refer to the electrical charge on the molecule. If you look in the picture, most of the electrons that are present on the water molecule are closer to the oxygen. That means that the oxygen has a higher negative charge, right? Electrons are negatively charged. So the more electrons that are present on the oxygen, or in one particular area on the molecule, means it has a higher negative charge. The hydrogens don't have very many electrons near them. So we say that they have a relative positive charge. So you see how this creates an unequal distribution of electrons? If it were equal, the electrons would be shared all around both the oxygen and the hydrogens. However, since it's unequal, we say that the molecule is polar. That is, one side has a higher negative charge while the other side has a higher positive charge. All right? So it all has to do with the distribution of electrons. It all has to do with how those electrons are situated around the water molecule. Because of this gives water some really unique properties. Water binds to itself very easily, much easier than a lot of other molecules, because it's polar. All right? So it's all about these different chemical properties that we're looking at. It's all about polarity and how the difference in electron distribution allows for charges to happen. And those charges attract and repel each other. That's what gives water unique properties, how it can stick to itself. You know that when you spray water out of a hose, it doesn't just spray everywhere. It stays in a concentrated stream. And that's because of the polarity of water. It's because of the unequal distribution of electrons on the molecular level. It's really cool. So we look here, this is a better understanding of how those different molecules interact with each other. The positive charge of one water molecule and the negative charge of another attract each other, forming what's called a hydrogen bond. So if we look here on the picture, the hydrogen has a relative positive charge and the oxygen has negative. Remember, the oxygen is negative because it has more electrons than the hydrogens do. As a result, the negative and positive charges attract each other, forming what's called a hydrogen bond. This is what allows the water molecules to stick to each other. This is what allows those water molecules to stay together. You know, when you drop water, you have water droplets. All right, those water droplets are as a result of hydrogen bonding. That's why they don't spread everywhere, all right? Or, you know, have you ever done the penny experiment where you take the little droplets of water and put them on the head of a penny, all right? Or if you ever filled up a glass beyond the rim and you see this bit of water that's floating kind of over the top of the glass, that is because of hydrogen bonding. So all of these unique chemical properties that water has simply as a result of hydrogen bonding, which is a result of the polarity of the molecules. So what does the hydrogen bonding give? What type of properties does that have? Well, hydrogen bonding allows for many unique properties in water. It resists temperature changes very easily. Water is in a liquid state at a higher range of temperature than any other chemical compound. All right, so liquid water is essential for our life, and because it's in between 0 degrees Celsius and 100 degrees Celsius, that's what allows us to survive. Water expands when it freezes. It's a very unique property. You know that ice expands when you leave a drink of water or a bottle of water in the car and you let it sit when it's cold outside. The water expands and starts cracking the outside of the bottle. So hydrogen bonding allows water to expand when it freezes. And we also need to talk about the properties of cohesion and adhesion. Cohesion is the ability for water to stick to itself, like what we talked about with the water droplets. Adhesion is water's ability to stick to other things. So if you ever you see water on the side of a glass, water tends to stick to the side of the glass, all right? Water tends to stick to other things as well because of the hydrogen bonding that's present. So cohesion and adhesion, two really important properties of water. One thing to understand about water as well is the concept of diffusion. Water molecules are always moving. Even though they have hydrogen bonds with each other, water molecules are always moving around. And this concept is called diffusion, the movement of particles from a high concentration to a low concentration. So for example, you take a droplet of food coloring and you place it into water. That food coloring diffuses, it spreads out throughout the water. That's because the water molecules are moving. It's kind of pushing that food coloring around so that it's equally distributed throughout the entire glass. All right? Kool-Aid is an example of this too. You pour a Kool-Aid pack in there, eventually it distributes all the way through. All right? This concept of diffusion is really important for movement of materials in and out of cells. So we'll look more at that when we get to the cell unit, but I want you to understand how diffusion works since we are talking about water. The movement of water allows for other molecules to diffuse out. Now, this doesn't always just happen with water. You can probably think of perfume. Somebody spraying perfume in a classroom. It's really concentrated at first, but over time that diffuses throughout the entire classroom, and as a result you don't smell it quite as well anymore because the concentration is lowered. So diffusion is just simply the movement of molecules from a high concentration to a low concentration. Alright, so hopefully today you can understand the importance of polarity, that gives water all its really unique properties, and those unique properties of water are essential for life. And then you need to be able to understand why water is polar and the unique properties it has. So a lot of really cool stuff going on with water. We're going to do a couple demonstrations a little bit later on about the uniqueness of water. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later on. But make sure to take your video quiz after you watch this lecture. Thanks guys, have a great day, and we will see you later.